Tonight on Reel to Reel, we'll see how a Philadelphia area lawyer is practicing law for the people.
And we'll continue our series on Black Catholics with a look at Sisters of the Faith.
Dr. Richard Fitzgibbons and Mary Jane Brandt return with relationships.
And Mike Gallagher takes a look at the controversial movie Hail Mary. All that and more tonight. Hello, I'm Father Dave McGowan.
And I'm Isabel Gauvery. Welcome to Reel to Reel.
Welcome back. It's good to be with you again this week. As we told you earlier this month, good news for all our Father Tom Legere fans out there. The full-length shows with Father Tom at Villanova University were so popular with you, our viewers, that we're going to bring them back again for an encore performance starting next week. So if you didn't catch the shows the first time round, well, here's your chance to hear Father Tom's talk on our spiritual journey.
And in other news here at Reel to Reel, we have the travel brochures ready for our European tour coming up the first 2 weeks of May. Now, in case you haven't heard about it yet, we're inviting you to travel with Father on a wonderful tour that will include classic cities like Rome, Pisa, Innsbruck, Salzburg, Munich, and Lucerne.
And the information is yours just for the asking. Just drop a line or call us during business hours. We'll have our address and phone number at the end of the show. So get ready to grab a pencil and paper when we take a break a little later on.
But up first tonight, we have the story of a Philadelphia attorney and self-described people's advocate who seeks justice in the courtroom and in society. Maureen McCullough is an attorney with the Philadelphia law firm of Obermeyer, Maxwell, Redmond, and Hippel. Her professional specialty is civil litigation. Her day-to-day specialty is combining the values of her Catholic upbringing with a sense of commitment and dedication to the people she serves.
I also saw law, and as I got older, it became increasingly clear to me, as having an impact, a tremendous impact on all of our lives. Laws that are made and how they're carried out. Being an advocate for a person, you know, the legal system can be tremendously overwhelming for someone who is unfamiliar with it. And I've always been interested in serving other people, and I see the law as a service career. To be an advocate for someone, to represent their point of view or their position when they're unable to do so, is, I guess, one of the key things that I saw as being a lawyer.
Service to her clients, her community, and her church. Maureen has served on the Cardinal Kroll's Commission for Peace and Justice and was recently asked by Cardinal O'Connor to serve on the Committee for Social Development and World Peace.
There are so many forces and stresses in each of our lives. Sometimes I think it becomes easy to shut out a lot of problems that exist around us and just try to get through our own days. And I think it's extremely important that we try to be mindful of issues.
One of the issues of which Maureen McCullough is most mindful is the plight of the homeless. To that end, she is on the managing board of Mercy Hospice, but her involvement goes beyond approving budgets and giving legal counsel. Hers is a one-on-one involvement with the home and its residents.
Mercy Hospice at this point has expanded greatly. It houses about 15 women. They have 3 different programs. They have a day program for women. They have an outreach program. People from Mercy Hospice go out to the people on the street and bring them food and clothing and so forth. I think Mercy Hospice is a tremendous operation. The staff of the hospice recognizes the dignity of each person. And I think that that's something, you know, it's not just a service, it's respecting people whom you serve and whom you represent. The whole issue of housing has become very important to me, and from Mercy Hospice and the meeting with the staff people there, we saw the problem increasing. Women and children who, because there were no housing options available, were living from month to month to month in shelter situations, which can be very destabilizing to a family. We decided that we as a group, and this included some of the staff and other volunteers, would like to do some concrete things to provide housing opportunities for single-parent families. we formed a nonprofit corporation called Philadelphians Concerned About Housing. Its main goal is to acquire and rehabilitate abandoned or rundown housing and to provide it in a rental model to single-parent families. We received as a donation 4 houses from Mercy Catholic Medical Center and have rehabilitated those. We now have several families living in them, and it's only a beginning step, but it is a step that needs to be taken, and I think the model that we have set up is one that could be duplicated. The goal of the program is to work toward self-actualization of each person, not that they're dependent, but that they stabilize themselves. All of our tenants, the 3 women, are either in a job training program or they're working at this time because of the support services that PCAH has provided to them.
Maureen's concern with the problems that face our communities today led her to seek a seat on the Delaware County Council. Running as a Democrat in a traditionally Republican stronghold, Maureen made the strongest showing of any Democratic candidate in recent years. Running a campaign staffed mainly by family, friends, and people who shared her concerns, Maureen feels that everyone who was involved in the campaign came away the better for it, including her opponents.
The reward of that campaign was one that we were able to put together a credible, good campaign and challenge my opponents. I think we all need to be challenged, and I think what my campaign did was challenge the incumbents to face some issues that I saw as critical issues facing Delaware County.
And what about a future in politics?
I hope to run again, and I hope to be successful the next time. In fact, the saying is we'll get them next time, so I hope that does happen.
Maureen McCullough is a confident and compassionate woman. In part, she credits these values to 16 years of Catholic education, but she also recognizes the invaluable support of her family, especially her mother, who was left to raise 8 young children alone after Maureen's father died.
My mother has always instilled in her children a sense of confidence, a sense of set your mind to it and you'll be able to achieve it. But regardless of all that, regardless if you don't achieve what you set as a goal, I'm here. I love you regardless of anything you do, and she's always been a tremendous support to me. To be of service to other people, to help those who maybe in a maybe in a powerless situation, to help them to become who they can be is tremendously rewarding.
You know, Father, I think the Philadelphia area is going to be hearing a lot from Maureen McCullough in the next few years.
I agree with you, Bill. We're going to take a break, but there's more to come on Reel to Reel, so don't go away.
May 2nd, 1986, and you're just beginning the experience of a lifetime on the 1986 Reel to Reel Tour of Europe. Join Father Dave McGowan for a 16-day visit to places you've heard about but thought you'd never see. The mystique of Milan, luxurious Lucerne, bustling Munich, exciting Innsbruck, romantic Venice, the culture of Florence, and of course Rome, including a papal audience. All this and much more is part of the all-inclusive package. For a brochure and more information, call 215-565-7070.
Charity in Action is a heartwarming sight. In South Jersey, the House of Charity relieves hardship for thousands of men, women, and children. Through its agencies, retarded children receive special education. Medical treatment goes to the poor. Concerned workers care for the elderly. Young people are counseled on drug and alcohol abuse. And the physically handicapped receive training. Support the House of Charity in South Jersey and touch someone's life with love.
Last month, Mike Gallagher took a look at the controversial film Hail Mary by French film director Jean-Luc Godard. The film, described by many as blasphemous, is a modern-day depiction of the conception and birth of Jesus Christ and has been drawing protest in major cities around the country. When we ran Mike's review last month, we had numerous requests for transcripts from our viewers. So tonight is a public service. We would like to run that review again.
Hello, I'm Mike Gallagher. The director of the highly controversial French film Hail Mary is Jean-Luc Godard. He's often been hailed as a genius, but remember, it's movie critics who have hailed him as a genius, and you know what movie critics are like. Now, maybe you don't know what movie critics are like, but I do, having been one for much, much too long. And I happen to agree wholeheartedly with Dwight MacDonald's assessment. Movie criticism, he said, is the perfect métier for the second-rate mind. Now take Godard's retelling of the incarnation story in Hail Mary. All the critics I've read have focused upon the nudity and foul language as the cause for Catholic outrage. I agree that these elements are indeed offensive to Christians, especially in a film that deals with the mystery that is so essential to Christian belief. Yet no critic seems to have noticed that aspect of Godard's film that is the most off-base. I'm talking about a fundamental misinterpretation, one that seems to flow as much from a bias against women as from anything else. In the Gospel account, Gabriel tells Mary what is in prospect for her and then answers her question as to how this is to come about since she knows not man. And then there's a marvelous pause in this brief moment in which time and eternity intersect. Mary considers and then gives her answer. Let it be done to me according to thy word. This is her fiat. She accepts of her own free will, becoming in a sense, therefore, a co-redeemer with Jesus. Fallen human nature thus gets the opportunity through Mary to have a part in its own salvation. What we have of Godard, however, is what we have in the writings of some feminists who also miss the point. They fail to see that Mary has a choice, despite the emphasis put upon choice in the gospel. What they do then is reduce this awesome yet very human mystery to something like celestial rape. Now the funny thing is that Hail Mary is otherwise a pious meditation on the Word becoming flesh. This, even though for many Christians, Godard's particular brand of piety would be practically indistinguishable from impiety. But let me say this. For a man who has filled his movies with tedious Marxist tracts, to take up a subject so central to Christianity and treat it according to his lights, however dim they might be, in a serious way, is something I think that represents a significant progression. I can certainly understand and sympathize with those protesting Hail Mary, but if we protest against Hail Mary as the Pope has done, let's be consistent as the Pope has been. Let's also protest, as he does repeatedly, against the godlessness and impiety of commercial television and the general run of feature movies. Hail Mary has a bitter taste, sure, it shocks us, right? We notice it, but the poison that goes down smoothly is the poison that does the real damage, especially since we're much more likely to incorporate it into our daily diet. I'm Mike Gallagher for Arts Review.
The opposite sex is often the most difficult half of the human race with which to communicate. You know what you're saying makes sense, but sometimes they just don't seem to be hearing what you are saying. Sound confusing? Well, here is Dr. Richard Fitzgibbons and Mary Jane Brandt to discuss the difference between what we say and what we hear.
Are you comfortable being close to someone of the opposite sex? Today we're going to discuss relationships between men and women. And with me is an associate, Mary Jane Brandt. In our practices, we find that serious problems exist in the Catholic community in relationships between men and women, between husbands and wives, between sisters and priests, and between those in the single state.
And this is a shame because it doesn't have to be this way. Relationships can be so enriching and so fulfilling. They can make us feel like we can do anything. One of the things that I have found is that when a couple comes to see me, usually there's a presenting problem, and so often it seems to be someone in the couple, maybe it's both of the couples, inability to express their feelings, what is really going on. Now, why is this? Why is it so darn difficult for people to be able to express what's really in their heart? Well, sometimes it seems to come from a person feeling stupid. I feel stupid when I express my feelings. But where does this come from? A lack of confidence. Maybe it's the families that we grew up in. Sometimes maybe the female in the relationship has come from a family where it was very easy to express love by doing things for others, not so much a verbal expression of love. And maybe for the man in the family, his dad, though his heart was loving and he cared deeply for everyone, just couldn't express it to the people in the family. I love you, or I think you're fantastic, I think you're wonderful.
Other problems in male-female relationships include problems of misunderstanding, just not really taking the time and energy to try to understand the person of the opposite sex. Other problems include misdirected anger from past painful relationships and unconscious emotional pain from childhood, which can erupt. Now, I'd like to make several suggestions to women about what you can do to improve the relationships with the men in your life. First, try to understand and appreciate that you really enrich the lives of the men around you, in the married state, in the single state, and in the religious state. You may not have been told this, but you really do. Secondly, try to understand men. The male world tends to be a much less complimentary world and affirming world than the female world. Therefore, it's more difficult for men to compliment and to praise than women. Third, please, don't overgeneralize. It upsets me when women categorize men and say that all men are insensitive or chauvinists or angry, and it simply isn't true. Many men in every life state are gentle, loving, and kind.
And I'd like to speak to the men. There are so many things that you, as very masculine men, so let's throw out that old-fashioned word, what did that mean? Now it means that we can compliment. You can compliment the women in your life. Praise them. I love to hear praise. Women love to hear praise and acknowledgement for the good things that they've done, for everything that they've done. It makes us feel good and worthwhile. Start future pacing, too. At the end of the day, try to leave your cares and woes behind you. Focus on where your family has been that day, what their lives have been like, so that when you enter the home, you can pick up where they are and be sensitive to all the things that are happening in your home to make the whole hour and reunion a good one. And start beginning to show emotions little by little. We're supposed to be Christians. Consider what that means. Christ-like. Christ showed emotions. It was very easy for him to cry and to feel joy and to feel sorrow. Start pacing yourself that way. And also, I really need to tell you this. So often, the women who come to see me, when they're thinking about getting a divorce or just leaving the man, one of the things that starts this happening is they're living with someone who is not expressing his emotions. So they're not leaving for a man who's wealthier or a man who's more successful and brighter. They're leaving because he's not opening and sharing his heart. And you might even consider, when the day is over, come in and embrace. Give the person in your life a big hug. I know how that makes me feel. All my stress just disappears immediately, and I know that my husband feels really great when I return the embrace.
As always, if you would like transcripts of tonight's relationships or Mike Gallagher's review, write us here and we'll be happy to send you a copy.
We're going to take a break, but there's more to come, so stay with us.
Because you love your family, now is the time to consider the financial advantages of a Donahue pre-arranged funeral. The caring, sensitive people of the Donahue Funeral Home invite you to discuss with them in the privacy of your home the many advantages of an inflation-protected Donahue pre-arranged funeral. With pre-arrangement, you can fix the cost of a funeral at today's prices permanently and gain peace of mind for yourself and your family. And that's what living is all about.
From the river to the ocean and everywhere in between, the Diocese of Trenton lives in its parishes, people, homes, and schools. And the Monitor newspaper is your way to keep aware of the renewal of the diocese. Lively features, accurate news reports, and columnists with something to say. Read the Monitor to find out what's happening in your church, from around the world, throughout the diocese, in your parish, from the ocean to the river. To subscribe, call area code 609-586-7400.
You may not know it, but today was a special day for Black Catholics in Philadelphia. The official Mass celebrating the 125-year history of Black Catholics in our area took place today at the Cathedral Basilica of Saints Peter and Paul.
Last month we began a series of shows on Black Catholics in our area with a discussion of the past 125 years of history and a look at the promise of the future. We want to continue that series tonight with a feature on the active role Black sisters are playing in the community and in our religion.
We are a source of edification to our Black brethren. I remember someplace else I was, and we'd walk down the street, and the men would say, "There goes." We had sort of a pride to them. It's something for them to look up to.
I knew what I wanted. I was only 11 years old, and I knew exactly what I wanted. No matter what people said to me, I continued. And I became a Catholic, and I became a religious.
It's not an easy road. You really have to know basically who you are and what you want out of life. I think you have to come to grips with what you have to offer as person.
3 women, all from different backgrounds, but sharing 2 things in common. They are Black religious, and they work in Philadelphia's Black community. Sister Anthony is principal of the Bambino Jesu Nursery at 16th and Poplar Streets in Philadelphia. Born and raised a Catholic in New Orleans, she chose at an early age to enter the first religious order for Black women, the Oblate Sisters of Providence. Sister Noreen, a teacher at the nursery, was born and raised a Protestant in Chicago, Illinois. But at age 11, she felt the calling to convert to Catholicism, and later, the calling to become an Oblate Sister. And Sister Benvita Piera, born and raised Catholic in Philadelphia, she chose to answer her calling to the religious life as a Sister of Mercy and practices primary health care as a nurse at the Mercy Haverford Health Center at 52nd and Haverford Avenues in Philadelphia. We spoke to each about what it means to be a Black Catholic religious and what the future holds for Black Catholics.
As far back as I can remember, I wanted to be a religious. The first sister I saw was a Holy Family sister. And I thought, well, whatever that is, when I grow up, that's what I want to be. And although my father was a musician, I went to dances and had a wonderful time. It stuck with me that, and so when the opportunity came, when I found out about the Oblates, I wrote to them and was accepted, and my dreams come true, and I've never regretted it, not one day.
I liked the serenity of the Catholic Church and everything that took place there. I just didn't. Even though the Presbyterian Church was all right, it was just something that was different about the Catholic Church that I like. It was my choice, to enter. I wasn't forced or anything else. I was the only Catholic in the family.
I think as a Black religious, I contribute in a real way because there is a sense of leadership and identity to those that I minister to and with. Sure, you could do that in lay life without being a religious, but the religious life gives you a deeper sense of fulfillment and also enables you to really give to others in a very unique way that I don't feel that I could do as, a lay person.
I think we contribute tremendously, first of all, among our Black children. With us here, there's a lot of things we can tell our children that a white nun would hesitate to say to them. For instance, I can tell them, just because you're Black, you don't have to act this way or that way. I think we all feel that we can identify with the Black people much easier than a white person can. Eventually they can.
All through history, we have had a difficult time with, just being Black and being religious. This is unheard of with so many people, you see. Can't be. That's why so many people approach us and want to know if we are Catholics or, or really belong to the Catholic Church. But the church doesn't belong to just one particular race. It belongs to all people. And because the members, it's God's church, and therefore you do have members of the church that are prejudiced, but after all, we're not following the members of the church, we're following God.
I was in New Orleans when segregation was, you should have been there that day. Wow. One priest said, over my dead body, they'll come into his church, and over his dead body, we're going into that church. Catholic roots. That's just how bad it was.
I think the Blacks can contribute a real live sense of spirituality and faith that is deeply, deeply rooted in who they are, where they've come from, and where they're going. It's a faith value that is so ingrained into our being that it becomes an integral part of everything that we do. And I think that's truly gift. And I don't think that is, and I think it's unique.
Doc, love you. Hold on the clothes.
As we said at the top of the show, travel brochures for our European tour are available for the asking. All you have to do is write or call us here at Reel to Reel.
Write to us at Reel to Reel, 222 North 17th Street, room 907, Philadelphia, PA 19103. That's 222 North 17th Street, room 907, Philadelphia, PA 19103. Or call us during business hours at area code 215-668-9842. That's area code 215-668-9842.
And here's this week's Community Bulletin Board. St. Peter Celestine Parish in Cherry Hill will sponsor a liturgy workshop on Saturday, February 22nd from 10 a.m. until 2:30 p.m. Speakers will be featured and admission is free. For more information, call area code 609-667-0395 or 609-667-2440. The annual Women's Retreat of St. Mary's Parish in Gloucester will take place from February 28th through March the 2nd at St. Pius X Retreat House in Blackwood. For more information, call 609-456-2838 or 609-456-4344. The Wilmington Office of Liturgical Formation will sponsor a day of reflection on February 22nd from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m. People involved in liturgy or liturgical ministry are invited. Call area code 302-573-3130 for more information. The Immaculata College Community Orchestra needs string and wind players for its spring performances. Rehearsals take place every Thursday from 7 until 9:30 p.m. at the college. Interested musicians should contact Sister Mary Aloysius at area code 215-647-4400.
Well, that's all we have time for tonight. Next week, we'll have a full half hour of Father Tom Legere as he discusses our spiritual journey.
So until then, thanks for being with us. Good night.
Good night, and remember, Jesus is Lord.
Travel arrangements for Reel to Reel by Atkinson and Mullen Travel of Media, PA. Phone area 215-565-7070.